I'm probably going to start with the latter. So,
That's fine.
I'm Felipe Formiga. I have been in the sports industry for the last 14 years, passing through some different brands, different perspectives. So, I bring my background, Adidas, on running. I think Christian just mentioned on running. So, just, very dynamic in different brands across different sports. And it's very interesting for me to be actually at the NFL and football category for Oakley, especially because that's the first time ever the brand that is established in one business unit, so like a full category, right? So we are considering, I think that showcase actually the importance of our partnership with football, NFL, and how do we see the brand actually investing more on that. So back to your point, I think I'm actually going to go back to the group and say like, how many of you know actually that Oakley was part of the NFL or is in football? Very few. Yeah, exactly. So we have been with football as a whole in the industry for over 2 decades. But actually just partnered with NFL 5 years ago. In instance, we're going with the with the sixth season now. So like it's been 6 years that actually we are partnering in this space, make sure we showcase some of the products, and the way that Oakley is showing our products on that space is actually on the field partnership. So we are the official shield and our partner for NFL, and we do have our logo on the shields, which again until last year was very small, very hard to identify. It's a dynamic thing. Now from now on, most likely you guys gonna see that on the broadcasting when you look at the shields, you're gonna see the logo. You're gonna remember that. But the first impression is always the hard one to connect. So we have been growing over 20% our brand awareness in this space after this partnership with NFL, which again I think demonstrates the power of the relationship and having the product in the right moment, the right place. So hopefully we're gonna see also something else from on the field and off the field. So we are not only bringing products for shields and on the field, but also leverage our lifestyle approach should make the athletes looking cool on the tunnel walks and on the parties, celebrating the wins.
Awesome, thank you. So in terms of taking it global, I would love to hear a little bit more what you personally feel is that global appeal that comes with American football as opposed to maybe other sports.
Sure. I think speaking personally, as you can imagine and probably figuring by now or wondering, based on my accent, I'm not from Montana or Texas, right?
Idaho.
So I can speak like very personally on that, right? So I'm Brazilian, so grew up in Brazil in São Paulo. I was actually following football or have been following football for the last 20 years. And I think what that makes like relevant is because football have been there already or has been there for 20 years, right? So it's been international already for a long time, and I think that's creating and paving the relationship or the fan base. So that's happening for many years now, but I think now it's the most visible moment for football and NFL specifically ever. So I think that's just becoming like a new stages with expansion. So NFL International, we're talking about some of the markets have like huge impact. Asian, Europe, and Latin America leading the charts with Mexico, Brazil. So when we talk about the expansion of the sport, especially with leagues as NFL, and they promote international games, which is happening in London, Germany this year, in Brazil actually next week, which is going to be my personal back to a point, my personal Super Bowl, right? Being Brazilian with NFL, work with NFL, having a game there is just kind of like a dream. And then you're thinking about the team working there and the community, the level of the connection that we can have with the culture. So again, the desire is there, the desire to be closer to the sport, and also not only fans, but like reaching out to new audiences and creating a real relevance for the sport on this local and regional level.
Awesome. When you talk about a global expansion, naturally there are going to be a lot of opportunities for brands, potential alignments, collaborations. What are some of the roles that brands can actually play in this global expansion as it rolls out and unfolds?
Yeah, that's for us. That's a very nice topic because that's exactly what we're living right now, right? Like as a brand, Oakley is actually discussing that right now, and it's funny when you have these meetings. I think I just mentioned that you or to someone else like earlier today we have these meetings with NFL, for example, or some of the partners, and then you're talking about global expansion, flag football, how the brand can be seen on and off the field. So it's a huge opportunity for the brand to understand some of those synergies. And being an early adopter, in my perspective, it's vital for the brand. So really leverage that first moment of not necessarily presenting the sport, but how we can actually shape with some of these platforms locally, right, like NFL or local initiatives for football, how we can actually connect with them and shape the presence of the brand on that space. So I think that the brands have a nice opportunity, also like a big challenge to make sure we are communicating in a proper way, make sure that's relevant to the local communities. But for sure, it's a nice opportunity. I think the perfect timing to do that. So.
But in terms of actually doing so, and this might sound silly, but you're talking about literally taking something that has been here primarily and taking it onto the global stage. Is there a formula for how to actually have an international expansion? And if so, what's really the best approach, I suppose, for all those going across different markets?
Yeah, sure. I probably would say, I wish you would have a formula, but actually I don't wish, because I think I have like a strong point of view on that one. I do think the same way we have like a huge opportunity with this space and the size and the power of football. I think that comes with a big responsibility to make sure we are connecting and communicating them in the proper way. So if we're doing something very special, a nice campaign, back to my point before, we do have NFL fans across the globe. That's an existing audience. However, that game is different in each one of them, the space. You watch the same game, but the way they absorb that, the way they watch the game is different, right? So like a Mexican NFL fan is different than a Brazilian NFL fan. So again, I think it's a nice opportunity, but it's a huge responsibility for us to actually go back and say, how are we going to create impactful and authentic campaigns to talk about football in Brazil or talk about football in UK or in Mexico. So again, I think this is no formula there. It's no one size fits all, not at all. And I think the brands that are global and have the global presence already, they definitely already understand some of these challenges and can leverage that presence across different markets to connect that with football and make sure you communicate and keep your brand essence and the football essence, but with a cultural and local relevance.
Sounds like there's probably a lot of testing and learning. I mean, if you don't have a playbook, you don't have a formula.
For sure.
Sounds challenging, but also exciting.
Yes, for sure. And again, I think that's it's a process, right? Mm-hmm. Like the same way the sport is growing, understand how you're gonna communicate the best way. The brand's gonna learn together, understand how the market will react with that. Sometimes new audiences, new sports or type of platforms and partners coming up. So, for sure, it's a learning process or learning curve.
And so, in terms of those partnerships and those collaborations, how are those? Can you speak a little bit more specifically to how those are a part of that strategy?
Yes, like part of my background is actually working partnerships and sports marketing. So I'm kind of like biased to answer to that because I truly believe that partnerships are vital to the strategy when I think as a whole. And I don't think like partnerships are kind of like one way or one avenue. It's just a 360. It needs to be a 360 approach, right? So at Oakley, for example, we do have partnerships in football with different platforms. So we are partnered with NFL, NFL Flag, US Flag, international and regional teams, like national teams. So I think like when you cover different platforms with different partners, we actually can communicate in a very authentic way. So it's better, the most authentic way I believe you can communicate as a brand is through some of those partnerships. Right? Instead of Oakley going there and being very intentional, very commercial, say, hey, we do the best eyewear for your flag football game. I think that message is organically and automatically passed when you see the best in the game wearing those glasses. So it's it's very authentic, it's very organic somehow. So I do believe the partnerships again. It's probably the best way to do that. And in this space of football, I mentioned some of these platforms and teams and entities, but also we do have partnerships with individuals which help us to tell some of the deeper stories for the brand. As example, the NFL ambassador and flag football star Diana Flores, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Jefferson, and some other athletes in this space. So, Andrew, can you show the video? Have the video to showcase what you're doing with the Innovators and keeping that relevance on the local level as well.
I tend to feel sometimes as an intruder to this football world. I don't want to be the best. I want to be the greatest. I am Diana Flores Arenas. I grew up in Mexico City. My dad brought me to this amazing football world. I started at a football club. This club had a football field and stadium. That's not where I started. As girls, as women, we're not allowed to step on that field. But since the sport has been growing so fast worldwide, it for sure has been opening a lot of different opportunities for us. That's what motivates me to grow not only on the field, but also to keep inspiring more women. Let them know that we belong. Sports has no gender. Avanza el juego adelante.
Thank you. And we're super proud of this piece because, again, I think that solidifies or bring together a lot of what I'm talking about. How we can actually bring relevance or local heroes or regional heroes on an international level to amplify the game. And I think flag football and women's in flag football and Diana Flores, it's the best way to partner with someone that creates impact in the game and help us to be organically present on that space.
Last question, and it's a big one. So whether it's many months from now, many years from now, big picture, how do you envision the future of American football, but at the global level?
That's a big one.
I know.
So I would say, I think there's no different from what is in North America, right? It's like a complete success, and I think the flag football, the way I envision the future of football as a whole, as a sport, I understand that the different categories, the different sports within football, they can be very helpful of the expansion and the growth internationally. So I was talking about flag football, right? And I think Tim mentioned that as well before, how the flag football is accessible, and that accessibility brings the passion, the contact, and the connection with the sports as a whole, with football sport as a whole. So it's easier for you to bring that person to play flag football, start that sport, and then after a couple of years, just have the engagement and the natural growth of the sport. So no best way to grow the sport than actually playing. And I think I'm just, again, repeating team words. But so I do believe like in a couple of years, we're going to have established presence global-wise in football, mostly with flag football. LA 28 has, just announced that a couple months ago or a year ago that flag football is going to be in the Olympics. I have seen a lot of movement already, a lot of markets investing on that space. With passing Paris 24, we stepping in new Olympic cycle. So, a lot of focus on that as well, investment and governmental and local level on flag football. So again, I see no other, future besides complete success for football. And for sure, the brands that are supporting that in the early stages, they're gonna, grow with that presence.
I don't think they can expand this building that much bigger, depending on how many people they bring in. I think there was just one more closing thought that you had, and then I think we can open it up to questions.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think that's. I just wanted to kind of like invite everybody. I think this type of group, and again, I'm super honored to be here, and thanks for Brand Innovators and NFL for hosting us. And I think this type of group and these conversations, they are key for the future of the sport. So we're talking about, like how we envision the future. I think this group here actually, and our brands and the brands that we represent, the companies that we represent here, have the power to change and to shape the future of the sport. And then I'm saying that in a very, maybe idealistic way, but I truly believe that we can generate impact through our brands, approaching the markets and the regions the right way, and just leveraging a common goal from a commercial business and community level. So we can connect all the dots and grow the sport of football on a global stage together.
Excellent, thank you. Was there one more video? Or is that...
Yes, if you're gonna go ahead, that's our campaign for this year, launching next week.
The game, it lives beyond the field. From game day fits to highlight clips. From the bright lights to your next rave, we stay locked in. From dodging L's to snatching dubs, we own the game beyond the game. The stage is ours. So, what's your move?
That's thank you. What's coming next? I think I mentioned to you, Kyle, I think a couple hours ago, maybe an hour ago, how we're expanding our approach in football and how we're going, from on the field, very focused on technology, performance, to off the field as well. So I think this, video exemplify as well, like where we're going, the direction that we're moving, and considering football more than a, performance game. So how we empower the athletes to perform at the best on the field, but also express themselves outside of the field when they take the uniforms out. So yeah, very, very excited to see that coming to life in the next couple of weeks and months.
Super exciting. Do we have time for questions?
Sure, yeah. Questions, anyone?
Anybody have any questions for Felipe?
Please.
This is a shy group.
It is a
come
shy
on.
group, I know.
Yes.
Quick question. I'm just wondering, how do you measure progress in what you do? Because it's sort of tied to football expanding internationally, but ultimately working for Oakley. So, what does your scorecard look like?
Okay, that's great. Great question. Two main ways. One is a brand awareness and brand impact. The other one is more commercial, right? So it's completely tied back to sales. So that's kind of like more objective and easier one for us to track. But through some of the partnerships, as I mentioned, like NFL, in instance, we do have like all the data supporting us on the strategic movements and adjustments that we have to do yearly on the campaigns and how we're going to communicate the marketing strategies and adjusting that. So we have seen a growth on the brand awareness, the brand adoption, and that not only on the data, on the researches like with NFL and other institutions, but also that reflects on conversion. So again, back to my point, I think brand awareness is awesome, is great, but by the end of the day, we do have to convert that, right? Like we do have to bring that impact on the sales side as well, just to support us and to show that we are reinforce that we're in the right direction. So I would say both things, sales and brand awareness or brand impressions and impact. So we can measure kind of like media is one side, the other side is purely revenue. Does that answer?
Yeah, thanks.
Sure.
Any other questions? Okay, well, let's give it up for this fantastic session.